We're on the third episode of this show, which is awesome. Remember, guys, this posts every Saturday, and we bring you all the NFL news you need to know about. And there's a lot of news to talk about this week, so let's get right into this. Obviously, this is a podcast. If you guys have any other idea, I mean, obviously we're doing the NFL gyms thing, but if you guys want to see anything else NFL related, let me know down in the comment section below, because obviously I enjoy this very, very much. So a lot of stuff happened this week. A lot of major moves. Some veterans were cut. Some really good players were traded. So the first news story is about Jeremy Maclin, and he obviously was released by the Kansas City Chiefs. I think it was yesterday night. I'm recording this on, I think it was Saturday morning, really early. So if my voice sounds a little low, that's why. So Jeremy Maclin, great player for a long time. Unfortunate, he's one of those guys, he's like an Arian Foster, where he's so talented if he just could have stayed healthy. You know what I mean? If he just could have stayed healthy, he would have been one of the better receivers of the last decade. But he just couldn't stay healthy. Same thing with Arian Foster. I mean, some of the years that Arian Foster put up were amazing and amazing to watch. I mean, he was bar none the best running back in the league, even with Adrian Peterson in it at times. So it isn't, you know, same thing with Jeremy Maclin. It just sucks that he could not have stayed healthy. And obviously, I think that was the biggest part, biggest reason why they let him go. And now, in this part of his career, the latter parts of his career, I don't think he's a number one guy anymore, but he's a really good number two. So the Chiefs have announced that they obviously released Jeremy Maclin. Andy Reid said it was hard to part ways with a longtime receiver. Obviously, he coached him in Philly and in Kansas City. And obviously, Andy Reid knows how to utilize him to the best of his abilities. So apparently had a lot to do with cap. The release results in the Chiefs saving $8.6 million in total savings, which I think a lot of factors went into that. And it's really interesting to look at the Chiefs receiver core now, because obviously they spent their first round pick on Pat Mahomes, and in a relatively one of the deeper receiver drafts that we've had in I don't know, maybe 2 years, maybe I would say since the Juice Beckham, Mike Evans draft, and Stephon Diggs. I mean, that was one heck of a receiver class. So I think I don't think Stephon Diggs is in that class, excuse me. But anyway, this class was relatively deep, and the Chiefs didn't really do anything to get a high value guy. So their receiver core, I mean, they have Chris Conley still. They have obviously Travis Kelce, who's a beast, very underrated player. And then on the outside, they still have Tyreek Hill, who was the rookie phenom. So they still have a really good supporting cast. Obviously, in the backfield, they're looking pretty nice too. So they still have a really good supporting cast around them. But I don't know if the offense is, the offense is still not there yet to complement the defense. I feel like if you give the Chiefs an explosive offense, like, Pat Mahomes fits what Tyreek Hill likes to do. I don't think Pat Mahomes is going to be ready this year. But if he was, the offense would be more explosive because of Pat Mahomes' arm. If we put Derek Carr on the Chiefs, right, that just makes the whole Chiefs team better. You know what I mean? It makes it more explosive because Alex Smith does not stretch the field with his arm. And I know people are like, they'll show that clip where he throws a touchdown to the same. I could show you 5 more clips where he just can't get it there. The AFC divisional round game is a perfect example of that against the Steelers. Just missed so many passes that should have been easy touchdowns, and he just couldn't get him there. So he's always had that problem with deep ball accuracy. He's always had that problem. There's a really funny clip of before. This doesn't mean anything, but there's a really funny clip where before the draft, Aaron Rodgers and Alex Smith were throwing at a target that was really far away and really high up. In the first throw, Aaron Rodgers just nails it, of course, because he's Aaron Rodgers, and Alex Smith completely whiffs it. So he's always had that problem. I know that was a dumb example of that, but yeah, he's always had that problem. So it's interesting. Hopefully Patrick Mahomes, coming from the the farthest thing from a pro offense, from what he came from, obviously it was the epitome of a spread offense. There was no huddles. There was everything was called on the line of scrimmage if there was an audible. It was basically backyard football. I hate to use that term because it is kind of demeaning what Pat Mahomes did. It's not like it's not like he have no knowledge to do it. But it's going to be interesting to see how far, because he's a super talented guy. I know a lot of people compare him to Jay Cutler. I think he's a little bit more athletic than Jay was. So it's gonna be interesting to see if Pat Mahomes can push Alex Smith and get in. Because I think if he's ready, obviously I think in my personal opinion, I don't think he's gonna be ready until next season. But who knows? He could be like Dak Prescott, and just really surprise a lot of people. But not everybody's a Dak Prescott, so. And in terms of Jeremy Maclin, I think it was a bad move for the Chiefs. Obviously, they whiffed on Brandon Marshall. That was a huge whiff. I think that would have really added something to that offense that they needed. Obviously, cap restraints probably played a lot of role into that. And obviously, Brandon Marshall wanted to play for the Giants, which was probably the better move for him. And, that defense is so scary with Dee Ford, Tom Bahali, who's still pretty dang good even in his old age, and then you have Justin Houston. If he can stay healthy, I mean, look out. And then you have the rookie in the middle, or from last year, the rookie in the middle. His name's escaping me right now, but he's a great player. The back end is really good with Marcus Peters and obviously Eric Berry, and Ron Parker back there. So they've got a lot of talent on that that defense is locked down, especially when it comes to getting after the quarterback. So even though they lost Poe, I really don't think it's going to be that big of a difference. So that team is still really good, but I think they were missing one more piece on the offensive side of the football to really help out Alex Smith, because I think you have to surround him with a bunch of talented players, not just like a few talented, especially Tyreek Hill, who's a little bit more, he's smaller, you know what I mean? It's not like he's just a speed guy. I mean, obviously he can catch it from anywhere on the field and take it to the house. So he still makes Alex Smith better. I'm not saying that, but adding a big 50-50 ball guy, I think an elite guy, a number one guy, would have been a huge boost to the Chiefs. And then when you look, I think the Chiefs' offense is going to be a little worse than it was last season. Maybe it'll be better. I doubt it though. I think it's going to be around the same. I don't think they've improved. Is my point. I don't think it's going to be worse, but I also don't think they've improved all that much. Now, in terms of where Jeremy Maclin is concerned, where he's going to land, I think Philly, a lot of people are going to bring up Philly for no reason other than this, because I think they've already got their guys, man. First of all, Jordan Matthews, who we're going to talk about in NFL Gyms, is so good and so underrated. And I feel bad for Eagles fans because he is a really good player. Obviously, he hasn't put up the greatest numbers, like eye-popping numbers, but he will, trust me. Especially with Carson Wentz as his quarterback now. He's going to put up great numbers this upcoming season. The additions of Torrey Smith and Alshon Jeffrey is really going to open up the field for him. So the Eagles already have a really good offense, and in the backfield, it's pretty dang good as well. So I would say it's definitely improved from last season, from what they did in the draft, and obviously still have Darren Sproles and Ryan Matthews. So those are, as long as those guys can stay healthy. The Ravens is another landing spot. I guess that would make the most sense. The Ravens have zero, like, Brashard Perryman is not something you can depend on being there from week in and week out. Even when he was coming out of college he was really a raw prospect, and a lot of people had him going to the Dolphins, but he's obviously suffered a lot of injuries. So I guess obviously Steve Smith's retirement would play into that. Dennis Pitta just hurt his hip, if you guys didn't know that. So Joe Flacco's offense is nowhere near as good as it was last season. So that's a problem. They obviously lost one of their really NFL gems, I guess you could call it, is Kamar Aiken, who's a really good player. Lost him to free agency to the Colts. So the Ravens, I would say the Ravens, in terms of a need, would need him, but I would not be surprised if he landed somewhere else. And if I could think, maybe Green Bay would be a spot he might land. Obviously, they have Devontae Adams and Randall Cobb and Jordy Nelson. So why not throw another receiver in there to help out Aaron Rodgers? Maybe the Steelers. Obviously, they have Martavis Bryant, Eli Rogers, and Antonio Brown, which is already a stacked group by itself. But they have the cap to go after him. So who knows where he lands? Maybe he lands at Jacksonville. I doubt that either. So there's a lot of different areas. I would not be surprised if he landed with someone like the LA Rams. Maybe Seattle would be a great place. Obviously, Russell Wilson, not short on weapons. He has Doug Baldwin, Javon Curse, and did I say Javon Curse? Not Javon Curse. I can't remember his name right now. But Javon Curse was a great defensive end. He was not a receiver for the Seahawks. I can't remember his name, but you guys know what I'm talking about. The number 15, I think. I can't remember his name. I can't remember his name right now. I'm about to Google this as I talk. But other than Jimmy Graham, obviously, I think Seattle would need a Jeremy Maclin to add another weapon for Russell Wilson on the outside. That would be nice. So those are some. I would expect him to go to a contender like Seattle or maybe Arizona, who needs another. I think they would need. I mean, obviously, they have J.J. Nelson, John Brown, and Fitzgerald, but maybe add another big guy in there. So there's a lot of places for Jeremy to land. I would expect him to go somewhere that's a contender. All right, so I think I was thinking of Jermaine Kearse. I think I know that's his name. So if I'm wrong about that, leave that down in the comment section below. Jermaine Kearse is who I was thinking of. So Seattle, Jermaine Kearse, obviously Doug Baldwin, Paul Richardson, and Tyler Lockett, who just suffered a severe injury this past season. Adding to Jeremy Maclin might not hurt the situation down there in Seattle. So that could be an area of where he goes. Anyway. I would expect him to go to a contender, though. I mean, if you went to somewhere like the Jets or something, I would be disappointed in you, Jeremy. Go for the ring, okay? All right, so let's see here. We have an update on the Colin Kaepernick situation. Seems like every episode I have done, we have literally talked about Colin Kaepernick at least once. And his journey to find an NFL home continues. The man has yet to find a home. And apparently, obviously, Seattle was a strong contender for a while, which in my eyes is blasphemy because of the rivalry that those two used to have. It's kind of insane that he might wear the hawk on the side of his helmet. But so apparently the Seahawks were extremely interested. Obviously, Pete Carroll said he's a starter in the league. All this blah 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 blah. I said he would make the team better. And it definitely came down. Apparently, it came down to money, and they were far apart on money. So that's the reason why Colin Kaepernick is not a Seattle Seahawk. And again, what I've said over and over again, and I think Colin Kaepernick should go somewhere where he can start. I still think he can. I still think he has potential to be a pretty dang good Pro Bowl quarterback in this league. If he just goes somewhere that's going to give him a chance and that he could start. Maybe go to the Arizona Cardinals and compete with Carson Palmer. Stay within the AFC West. Go do that. I mean, maybe go to, they definitely need a backup anyway down there in Arizona. They didn't get a quarterback in the draft, so that could be a big spot of, I think that's a perfect, especially with Bruce Arians. And then you go down to, let's see here, maybe Jacksonville with Blake Bortles. They need, I think, I've talked about this before. I think if they went to Jacksonville, they would win more games. So there's a lot of different areas, so many places he could go and actually could start and could compete and win games. So it's going to be interesting to see where he lands. I think it's total bogus. In my opinion on this the man, it's his opinion. He shouldn't be punished for his beliefs, for God's sakes. I don't think that's I hope that's not what the case is, because there's a lot of people in the league that are really hurting for a quarterback right now. And to not consider Colin Kaepernick is stupid. So whatever that, I don't know whatever your opinion is on that, let me know down in the comment section below. I don't know, I really don't have an opinion on it, but if that is the case, that's just retarded. It's just stupid to me. All right, let's move on to something a little bit better here. Whatever. If you're a Chargers fan, you have signed third-round offensive lineman Dan Finney. That was a great draft pick for you guys. I thought he was going to go in the second round. Ends up going in the third round. Obviously, he's an Indiana kid. Comes from a really long line of really good production there. Obviously, produced running backs like Jordan Howard and Telvin Coleman, who are great running backs in the league right now. And he was a big part of the reason they had so much success in Indiana. And he's definitely pro-ready. He's not one of these spread offensive linemen that don't know what the heck they're doing when they go to the NFL. So he's definitely pro-ready. If you're a Texans fan, you have signed linebacker C.O. Moore, the former Indianapolis Colt. Maybe you guys get some little dirt on him. Obviously, I just told you guys the Ravens defensive end tight end Dennis Pitta has suffered a pretty bad hip injury. So I don't know why that little stutter bug right there, I couldn't get it out. And then the New Orleans Saints signed cornerback their first-round pick Marshawn Lattimore. The Panthers are working on an extension with Trey Turner, which is something they really need to get on because that is by far their best offensive lineman, other than Ryan Khalil, I would say. He might be better than Ryan Khalil. The Vikings center, Joe Berger, is likely to retire after the 2017 NFL season. I just ate pancakes. I am burping like a crazy person. I said that again. It's early in the morning. You got to have your pancakes. If you don't have your pancakes, there's something wrong with you. I just don't. I don't do blueberry pancakes. I just do normal pancakes because I'm not a crazy person. That's really bad news if you're a Vikings fan because these are pretty solid offensive linemen there. The Bengals have signed their controversial draft pick, Joe Mixon, who's a great player. Again, give him and the man a second chance. Everybody makes mistakes. Chris Johnson wants to continue playing. Okay. That's another news story there. I mean, I don't know where Chris Johnson would land. I'm trying to think of maybe Jacksonville. Maybe Jacksonville. Obviously, they have T.J. Yeldon and Chris Ivory behind Leonard Fournette. Maybe add somebody else like Chris Johnson, who, before he got hurt, really good running back. He had that really. He probably would have been comeback player of the year that year if he could have stayed healthy that year. The year they went to the NFC Championship game. Dwight Freeney to return to the Falcons. That would be amazing if he did that. That's a big question mark. Let's read some more into this because I love Dwight Freeney. Let's see if we can't read some more into this. It's probably boring for you guys, but I want to know. So there you go. I really want to know. Dwight Freeney isn't done with football just yet. You can read about this article. It's by Zach Links. It's on Pro Football Rumors. Dwight Freeney isn't done with football just yet. Although he does not have, I'm reading the article, he does not have a team for 2017. It sounds like that could change rather quickly. I've heard, okay, this is a quote from Dwight Freeney. I've already been talking to coaches and going back and forth here and there with the draft picks and free agents. Freeney said that the line of communication is still very open. They say they're still very interested, and I'm planning to reach out to them here soon, and hopefully we both believe that we can make that they want me back playing for them. So he's talking about the Falcons. The Falcons will receive $4.3 million in salary cap credit on Friday, yet a chunk that could go towards re-signing Dwight Freeney. So there you go, guys. There's the quote. There's Dwight Freeney. Looking to go back to the Atlanta Falcons, which, you cannot underestimate leadership on a football team. I think when you look at the Carolina Panthers when they lost Peanut Tillman and Jared Allen, Jared Allen didn't have the biggest role on that team, but when they lost both of those guys who were long-time great players, it really hurt them. And I feel like anytime you can keep somebody like a Dwight Freeney doesn't matter how much you got to pay the man, he's a great leader. He knows how to win football games. He knows how to keep young players playing together and not lose their cool if you're down, how many ever points. Do not make a Super Bowl joke, okay? I know that sounds really dumb, and they came all the way back on the Falcons in the Super Bowl, but that's because Dan Quinn doesn't like to call timeouts when your defense is literally throwing up, can't breathe anymore. All right, so Joe Burger and obviously Matt Ryan, thank you for taking sacks. Nobody brings up that Brady was almost, I think he almost sacked for a safety, and the man throws it in the middle of the field. Could have been picked off, could have been thrown for a pick six. And Tom Brady took the risk, Matt. Okay, took the risk because he knew he couldn't take a safety, and guess what? It paid off. Okay, to looking into the Joe Burger thing, Joe Burger realized that he's getting towards the end of his career. He's obviously 35. That's the reason. He's old. Leave the man alone. He's seen a lot of things in his day. Joe Burger. What a name Joe Burger is for a center in the NFL. All right, so the next news story, what are we on? We were on, I think we just got done with, not Joe Burger, Dwight Freeney, yeah. Let's see here. What's the next news story? Alright, hang on. Just bear with me, guys. It's loading. Obviously, Victor Cruz. I think we talked about that last time. Victor Cruz to the Bears. That should be good for Mike Glennon down there. The Eagles signed. If you're an Eagles fan, you guys have signed your first-round pick, Derek Barnett, who I really love. I think he's going to be a really good player. Tavon Young, if you're a Ravens fan, has suffered a torn ACL. The 49ers are having Elvis Dumervil for a visit, who's a pretty dang good player. The 49ers signed cornerback Will Davis. So if you're a 49ers fan, there you go. Will Davis, I think if we're talking about the same Will Davis here. No, we're not. I'm thinking of somebody totally different. Colts David Perry still facing jail time. David Perry's a crazy person. The Colts, greatest franchise in NFL history. The Colts to sign running back Christian Michael, who obviously he bounced around the league. He had a really good preseason with the Seattle Seahawks, and then just bounced around to the Packers, and now he's back to the Colts. The Colts continue just to put anybody back there behind Andrew Luck to hand the ball off to. It is hilarious. I mean, when you consider how many running backs that man has had, it's insane. I mean, from Trent Richardson to Donald Brown to now to Christian Michael to Frank Gore. I mean, my God. So many people. Obviously, Ezekiel Elliott is still being investigated by the league for his, I think it was domestic violence, some kind of domestic violence case there. I don't know too much about it, so I'm not going to speak on that. So, and I don't really care. So, I don't think, from what I've heard from friends and stuff like that, it's pretty clear that he didn't do anything wrong. Let's see here. What else? What else do we have? We got a couple more things to talk about. Obviously, we got a big story to talk about that I still haven't. We're going through the quick stories. Remember, this is all the news you need to know about. We're just going through the quick stories really quick. The Packers released their punter, Jake Suckham. I can never say his name right, so it's not Suckham. That sounds really dumb. I think that's about it for the quick news story. So we can get into the Calvin Pryor trade here in just a second. James Aheadabo facing suspension. There's another one for you. Okay, okay, we'll stop here and then we'll do the Calvin Pryor story, which is really interesting. Calvin Pryor, who we all know for the safety from Louisville, former, I think, what pick was he? I can't remember. Former first-round pick. I know he was in the first round. I can't remember the exact number right now, but Calvin Pryor looked really good coming out of Louisville, I can tell you that right now, and he didn't, listen, I guess he's been disappointing people. I don't think so. I mean, when they went 10-6, he was a big part of he was a huge part, actually, of why they went 10-6, because one of the biggest reasons he was a big part of that is because he was on a good secondary. They weren't really relying a lot on him. I think he's a good free safety. I think Calvin Pryor is a good strong safety. I think he can play in the box. He can play both positions really well. He's a tone setter. I mean, I'll never forget the play. I don't know if it was the London game where we were playing the Jets, or it was the Jets were at MetLife Stadium, where it was like a huge third down. I think we just stuffed them in the backfield for fourth down, and Tannehill had somebody wide open. I can't remember who it was. If it was, I think it was Rashard Matthews, and he threw it to him, and he just got late. And Rashard Matthews is a big guy, and Calvin Pryor laid him out. So Calvin Pryor, great hitter, great safety. He's just a really good safety. So the Jets were planning to release Calvin Pryor. Obviously, Calvin Pryor, for some reason, I mean, he didn't play great last season. Obviously, a good example of that is I really don't think anybody gave any effort on that team. I think everybody gave up. Nobody was trying to win football games on that team. Muhammad Wilkerson didn't care to show up to team meetings. Neither did Sheldon Richardson. Todd Bowles suspended both of them and then still played them the next week. So, I mean, I don't know. Nobody respects anybody in that crapping organization. And obviously they're hoping Jamal Adams can turn that around because of the leadership that Jamal Adams brings. So the Jets were planning to release him. Obviously the biggest reason probably why they didn't is so he wouldn't become, I wouldn't say a Dolphin. I don't think that may or may not have happened. I think we're pretty okay with TJ McDonald and Nate Allen, especially TJ McDonald, because he's looked really good in OTA so far. Obviously, he's going to miss the first 8 games. So he could have become a Dolphin. I'd really highly doubt that. Obviously, I'm a hardcore Dolphins fan. So he could have become a Dolphin because of the safety need there. Obviously, we're going to have Nate Allen starting there for the first 8 games. I'm hoping Michael Thomas stops, because Michael Thomas, I feel like, is really going to push Bobby McCain for that nickel spot, and we're going to see who wins it, and it's going to be interesting, because it's going to make both of them better, but enough about the Dolphins. Obviously, they didn't want to release him so he wouldn't go to a division rival, and he's a good player. And he might not be a great player, but he's a dang good player. And he was a great player the year before. So, Calvin Pryor, interesting. Obviously, let's talk about what the Browns get from it. Obviously, they drafted Jabril Peppers, who I'm assuming he's going to play safety and not linebacker. They traded Demario Davis back to the Jets, who the Jets let go in free agency. And Demario Davis, young athletic dude. I think he's a great run defender. Not the greatest in coverage. We're going to see what Todd Bowles is. He's got, obviously, Todd Bowles. A lot of people forget he's got Darren Lee down there, from a kid from Ohio State, who's a really good coverage linebacker. So they have, obviously, Dade Harris is older, so they don't really get anything from the trade other than getting rid of Calvin Pryor. They add another body at their linebacker position. And then what the Cowboys, what the Cleveland Browns get, is a really good player who makes their defense 1,000 times better, because safety was a huge problem for them last season, because they had Tramon Williams starting at safety last season, and that was hilarious to watch. You want to see a 55-year-old man play safety, watch Tramon Williams play safety. It was hilarious. I mean, that, first of all, clearly, if you're a Browns fan and you're watching this, please tell me you guys laughed when you guys asked Brock Osweiler if he could be a starter, and he goes, "Watch my tape." Okay. Anyway, yeah, I think the Browns really benefit from this. I think they've improved their defense drastically from a season ago, and you guys should be very, very happy. I mean, from your front seven with Kursky, however you say his name, your linebacker who's looked really promising, and then you got Jamie Collins. Then you got on the edges Carl Nassib, who looked really good before injuring himself, and then you've got Myles Garrett, Danny Shelton in the middle. On the back end, obviously, Joe Hayden's coming back. And then you have Calvin Pryor and Jabril Peppers back there. It's looking really nice for you guys. And obviously, Jamar Taylor, who former Dolphin I've hated since he was he was terrible for us, but he had a really good season for you guys last season. So a lot of things for Cleveland to be happy about for their football team in the dog pound. So they got a really good player in Calvin Pryor. As for the Jets, so obviously they're going to start Marcus May and Jamal Adams. They're going to have a rookie back end this upcoming season, which is going to be really interesting to watch. Marcus May obviously Crappen gave up 10 touchdowns to Florida, gave up a lot of touchdowns, but he's super instinctual. He's a really good football player, as what you saw on tape. And then obviously Jamal Adams is a really good safety, and he dropped in the draft. I thought he was definitely going to be higher than he was, or higher than 6, that's for sure, which is where he ended up going. So the Jets are going to end up having a rookie secondary, the rookie back end on their last line of defense. So that's going to be interesting to see if that works out for them or not. I think Jamal Adams definitely is. Marcus May, it's going to be interesting to see if Marcus May, because again, Marcus May played in the SEC, very productive, but also gave up 10 touchdowns. So that could be an eye-opener for some people. And then again, it could, I mean, I don't know how you look at that. It's depending on what ice cream you like, I guess. Let's see here. There's a couple more things to talk about. Obviously, we went through everything. The Vikings signed Dalvin Cook. I want to talk about Dalvin Cook for a second. I see all these people thinking Latavius Murray is going to start for the Vikings. If Latavius Murray starts for the Vikings, I don't think that's going to happen. Number one, I think Dalvin Cook's going to start, and I think he's going to be like a David Johnson-esque kind of guy for that offense, where he's going to be catching wide receiver screens, bubble screens. He's going to be doing a lot of swing screens, a lot of swing routes out of the backfield. Anything you can ever imagine for him, especially with Sam Bradford, who loves to check it down. He's going to be invaluable for that offense, and he's going to get a lot more snaps than people think he will. So that's what I have. And obviously, if you're a Vikings fan, you guys have just signed him. Absolute steal in the second round. Obviously, you guys didn't have a first-round pick. And you guys got a really, really good steal in Dalvin Cook, which might as well have been a first-round pick. Melvin Ingram, Le'Veon Bell likely to stay away from workouts. That's obviously the Odell Beckham situation. Not coming into OTAs is a big deal for some people. I think this is a big thing going around the NFL today, and I had this in my notes to talk about for this podcast, but it's the state of the Seattle Seahawks. Obviously, a bunch of news how they've had the hangover 2 years ago, almost 3 years now, when Malcolm Butler picked off that pass on the goal line, and everybody's criticizing playing armchair crap and coach over here. And obviously, there's rumors that Richard Sherman and Pete Carroll have animosity towards each other because of that, and the whole defense, the whole Legion of Boom has animosity towards Pete Carroll. I would like to believe that's not true. A lot of people make up stories. They give people excuses of why, this is a great football team. Why aren't they doing so well? If you actually look at it from a football intelligence perspective, and you don't look at it about all these, it's Richard Sherman, he's still upset about the Super Bowl loss, that's why they're not getting back to another Super Bowl, because the team is really talented. Why aren't the Seahawks the same? Number one, they don't have the same offensive line that they used to. Ever since they got rid of Max Unger, it's not been good. It's not been good at all. Then you look at their defense last season. Why they lost to the Falcons in the playoffs was because of injuries. Earl Thomas suffered a season-ending injury against the Carolina Panthers, which is a huge part of that defense. Their cornerbacks were totally gone. Deshaun Shedd got injured. But their rookie cornerback behind him got injured. So there was so many injuries to that defense. Michael Bennett at a point in that game was not playing 100% healthy, by the way. He was injured. in that Falcons game, but he did play, but he was not 100% healthy. So there's a lot of different reasons why that Seahawks team is not the same team. I don't even want to say that they're not the same team. I feel like they just weren't healthy. They have offensive line issues. So they just have different things that they need to figure out. That they need to improve on. I don't think it has anything to do with a Super Bowl hangover. I don't think it has anything to do with animosity towards Pete Carroll. Maybe the players are getting more anxious because of some of the losses they've taken in the playoffs in recent years. I mean, obviously this past season it was against the Falcons, and then the year before that they ran into a great Carolina Panthers team who they almost came back on. That a 15-1 Panthers team, which is an all-time great football team. You don't just go 15-1. You don't just have only one loss and not be an all-time great football team. So, there's a lot of different reasons that play into that. It's not because they just lost. It has nothing to do. Maybe it's starting to build up now that they've failed the last two years, but I still feel like that team's fairly dominant. I feel like they get kind of lackadaisical, in the regular season at some points in the season. But again, some of the losses that they even had last season was due to that offensive line, and their defense hasn't been as dominant as it was when they won the Super Bowl and when they went back to the Super Bowl. But again, they lost people like Byron Maxwell. Brandon Browner was still there, and he was in his prime. Not the year they lost to the Patriots, the year when they beat the Broncos. So they lost pieces there. Obviously, Chris Clement. I mean, they lost a lot of really, really good players. And obviously, they've been able to replace some of those players. They added Jimmy Graham. So I think, in my opinion, there has a whole lot more to do with it than just crap and football drama, which is what this is, in my opinion, is just drama. I feel like there's more reasons than just that. If you want to say that's a legitimate reason, then go ahead and say it's a legitimate reason. But I think if you look at it from a football standpoint, and if you're a GM, if you're a coach, if you're another GM or another coach, if you're somebody who's played football in the NFL before, or you're just who's an NFL enthusiast who's watched the league for years and takes you religiously follow the NFL and you look at it from that kind of perspective. I think if you look at it from that perspective instead of this casual fan perspective, like all this drama going on, I think there's a whole lot more reasons than just that, is my opinion. And there's so many. That Falcons game where they lost to the Falcons in the Georgia Dome, is for one, obviously didn't have home field because of the team. I mean, they lost to the Buccaneers. There's 1,000 different reasons, and it has to do with the talent on the field, because they were injured in that playoff game. I mean, I think Earl Thomas makes a huge difference. KJ Wright and Bobby Wagner, obviously they were playing, but just having the whole defense as relatively healthy, I think they probably would have won that game. So that's what I'm saying. All right, so let's move on. Do we have anything else? Let's see if there's anything else interesting to talk about. Obviously, Pete Carroll has to answer the questions like, "Is your locker room okay?" And he says the locker room is in great shape. If he's lying, that would surprise me. Pete Carroll really doesn't lie about things. Obviously, there's a lot of different reasons why the Chiefs. We talked about that. The Chiefs letting Jeremy Maclin go. People are talking about Johnny Manziel and the struggles he's had with, dedication to the NFL. I think he has a lot of talent. Johnny Manziel does. I think I just said that like a crazy person, but Johnny has a lot of talent. Obviously, he was prolific in college, but that doesn't always translate to the NFL. And he showed flashes of a good quarterback. And I think under a stable organization with the right leadership in it, he can have a pretty decent NFL career. I don't think he's going to be a Pro Bowl or an MVP or a great quarterback, but he definitely can have a good career in the NFL. So yeah, there you go. We can go through this. This is an interesting list. NFL we can react to. I guess this will be the last thing before we get out of here. Obviously, Adrian Peterson to the Saints. Drew Brees and Adrian Peterson, two of the best players at their position of the last decades, I guess you could say, have been. I mean, those two, man, they're obviously both going to go to the Hall of Fame. Not even going to have to, check their license at the door because they are two great players. It's going to be really fun to watch those two guys play together. I'm really excited to see that. And all the people are like, oh, he can't catch out of the backfield. I don't give a ball sack in a stick. It's going to be really fun to watch. All right, so this is the top 10 most talented teams. This was written by Gil Brandit, who looks like an old man. I know this. I've read many of his articles. He's a very knowledgeable I think he's a Cowboys fan, though. I feel like he's a Cowboys fan. All right, so these are the top 10 most talented teams in the league. You better put my crap and Dolphins on here. The New England Patriots are number 1. Let's see here. We got to read more, apparently. So we got the Patriots are number 1. This is his list. The Patriots are 1. But okay, the Pittsburgh Steelers are 2. Okay, I respect the list so far, I guess. I would not put the Patriots 1. And that's not biased. I just wouldn't do it. Atlanta Falcons are 3. I think I would put them over the Steelers. For the Raiders are 4. I might have to put the Raiders a little bit higher too. The Cowboys are 5. The Cowboys would definitely be higher on my list. The New York Giants are 6. I feel like the Giants might be higher on my list. The Packers are 7. They would be way lower than 7. The Chiefs are 8. They would be higher than the Packers on my list. I'm not liking this list, Gil. The Panthers are 9. Respect. My brother is a huge Panthers fan. The Redskins are 10. The Redskins would not be in my top 10. They would not be in my top 10. So your honorable mentions. Let's see. You better at least have my Dolphins as an honorable mention. The honorable mention are the Houston Texans, the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Miami Dolphins, and the Seattle Seahawks. I would definitely put the crappin' Texans in there. That team is extremely uber talented, and then obviously I would definitely put my Dolphins in there. That's not biased. I just would. The Jaguars were honorable mention. They probably would sneak in. I don't think so. And the Seahawks were also an honorable mention. The Seahawks would definitely have made my top 10. So that is going to be it, guys. This has been the NFL podcast. Posts every Saturday. It's the off season, and obviously this is going to get a whole lot longer when the season starts than just 30 minutes. And yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed it. Remember, this posts every Saturday. We're currently doing an NFL Gyms, which we go through all 32 NFL teams and look at super underrated players on that posts. I think, was it? Man, I'm spacing out. I think it's every Tuesday and Friday. I would have to look at my calendar, but yeah, I'm burping again. Pancakes are coming. They're haunting me. Coming back. Remember Brock Osweiler. If I ever make a t-shirt, I swear to God, that's the first t-shirt I'm making of him answering that question. Go watch the tape. I think that's more funny to me than practice, than Allen Iverson's practice. We're talking about practice, bro. So we're talking about practice. Anyway, so that is going to be it, guys. Remember this post. I'm going to say it again. I'm repeating myself. This post every Saturday. So if you're an NFL fan, check out the channel. I just did NFL Gyms for the Panthers. I think the next one we're gonna do is the Raiders, because I want to talk about a certain player that wears number 10 on the Raiders. And I am Skag1383, and I'll see you guys in the next one.